Hey guys, Brent Hull, Wednesday design video. Talking today about a Caribbean house. Haven't done one of those yet. Should be fun. Infusing historic precedent into a new design. Come check it out. Okay guys, this is a Caribbean house that we're working on, and just the difference that you'll see kind of this Miami house, Florida house versus that historic precedent. If you think about what's built in Alice Beach, right? That story of Alice Beach is that those houses were inspired from the houses of Bermuda. And Bermuda is, you know, this Caribbean land that was taken over by the British and the French and the Spanish and all those countries from Europe kind of went into the Caribbean, got their different islands, and then infused those islands with the design culture and the classicism of the European home. So if you look at Alice Beach, there is a classicism there told with materials that are rustic and, you know, kind of easy to put together. So where this house comes from is the materials are simple, the overall form is classical. That is kind of the way to infuse a tradition into a house of this area and this type, so that it really has a sense of place and is really grounded. And what happens and you know, why this looks the way it does. And if you look at the side view, the boring nature of this house, if that's the right word, it's just the miss on a number of things that make this flat. Now, why is this happening? You know, this architect is actually very talented. This was his design. They've got actually water on both sides. He's showing where the views are, what the sun arc is. This guy knows what he's doing, but he doesn't understand traditional design, or I shouldn't say he doesn't understand it. He doesn't necessarily employ it. He doesn't it's not a priority for him. And I really think that is one of the key differences. And so what I'm showing here is, you know, this was their inspiration picture. This kind of a whimsical Caribbean style, very relaxed, okay, very, very informal, okay, kind of some fun things going on there. And you see this hipped roof, you see, you know, kind of this relaxed nature in this look. And so they've got a racing metal roof. The windows being all these kind of open lights is kind of messed up. Notice the doors too, all open lights. Now, I understand that, but this is where kind of designing from the inside out or the outside in. My approach would always be to create a beautiful facade on the outside, okay, and not worry as much about what's going on in the inside. And why do I do that? Well, because that's the way things were built historically. And so the reason I don't think this guy put windows over here is because they're actually blocked by these other buildings. But my take would be, actually, there's a narrative that this was built first, and then these auxiliary buildings are going to be dropped in later, and then they'll speak to this design. And so I'm showing this customer a number of different design ideas, okay, based on kind of historic precedent. The overall structure I took of this was, it's a Caribbean house, but it's a classical historical story. So it's Georgian. Let's say it's English in the Caribbean. So you would have an English, you know, Palladian design that would be brought down to the Caribbean that resulted in a house. So that's why you have this, you know, this balance between this kind of centerpiece and the outside pieces, the symmetry and the balance of the windows. And I'm showing it a number of different ways, kind of these smaller windows with the little panels. I'm showing kind of a larger window with the kind of a surround. I am assuming that this is built with local materials, plaster, but is, you know, it's possible that we could have a rusticated base, okay? And that base, you know, over here, it's not rusticated, but you still see the proportional breakup that the pedestal really does. I've got this kind of classical Palladian arch in here with the pilasters that support it. They go up and support a pedestal, which supports the other columns. I'm showing it possibly with the pediment. So that's, you know, what this side's meant to show. They wanted, you know, less formal. So this would be a hip roof. They'd go back, showing that one of these ways we could actually do timber rafters. The other way is much more formal. So, you know, this one's probably stucco and stone. This one's more wood. And so you're seeing I'm playing with these materials. I'm showing kind of 3 different variations for how you could do the porch railing. You could do a kind of perforated design that's actually designed into stucco, so it's a little bit heavier, but it has these breathe-throughs. You could have just turned balusters, that kind of more of classical, and then this way you could actually have slats in here where you're showing kind of this decorative design, right? And so there's this dial that we're playing with that one side's really formal, one side's more playful, and we're going to, mix and match these things to try to put together a house that makes sense for them. So, a couple of things that are happening. I just can't get over, okay, how ugly this is, okay, and not the design necessarily, but the contrast between a divided light window and a open pane. And I understand wanting to see out as much as you can, but there is a beauty and a proportion and a scale that a divided light window does, and I've got double hungs, right? They're not casements, so that it creates this aura and this feel of kind of tradition. Notice on these doors, this is a new door, okay? That door is not available in door store, buying at the lumber yard, probably until 1970, okay? If the sliding door comes in the 50s, 60s, this door is the 70s, 80s door. And to me, it's the typical door that's been put in since the 90s, okay? Historically, pre-1940, doors would have had panels in them. They would have been divided light, okay? And so, even in the arts and crafts period, or even in the 20s, you might not be panelized, but you might not have a panel in here, but you would definitely have a large lower rail. If you live in a bungalow, you might have a bottom rail of your door that's 16 inches up to 24 inches. And so just changing the way those doors look, right, I think, it helps quite a bit. Taking this front door and making it a panel door. And I look at historic tradition and historic way these would have been built, and, we come up with these design ideas. But really, there's 3 things that are happening here, right? I've changed the overall facade, okay, with kind of a classical face. A lot of symmetry, a lot of balance, windows over windows, divided light windows, traditional proportions. I have made divided light windows, right? I fixed the divided light windows, and I fixed these eave details. Notice the columns here, it's not a big deal, but these columns are the tubes, right? We don't want those tubes. The height of that railing is really tall, and so the proportions of the entablature. So, here there are 3, 4, 5 things that I think really transform this from being that typical Miami, you've seen it 100 times, different style, to something that's classical, comes from a tradition, comes from a heritage, and really makes a big difference. Okay, guys, what do you think? Really understanding that history and tradition of the European cultures in a primitive, rustic environment, and the architecture that ensues, right? Alice Beach is a good example of that inspiration from Bermuda. That's why I went back with that classical facade to traditional facade that I think really gives it a date and time and place that I really think it's up the overall design. So got a number of new steps on that one. I'll keep you guys posted on how it comes together, but that's a new house coming together in the Caribbean. Let me know what you think.